Welcome to the What I Wish I Knew After Pregnancy Loss podcast. I am your host, Shana Southern. I am an angel mum, a rainbow mum, a pregnancy loss practitioner, and trauma-informed coach. I created the Institute of Healing Through Pregnancy Loss out of my own experience with loss in the hopes to provide understanding and healing, educating people on pregnancy loss, and creating more women or men in trained support roles. In this podcast, I hope to shed light on what I wish I knew in relation to pregnancy loss, opening up the conversation, breaking the stigma, and bringing real-life stories plus guest experts. Thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the podcast, the intersection of pregnancy loss, fertility, trauma, and purpose. Having the conversations that should have been happening all along. Today, I have with me Kelly Rogers. Kelly is a multifaceted loss mum. She has experienced miscarriages, infertility, TFMR, and embryo donation. She knows what it's like to cry in the shower, to hide her tears, and to have a drawer full of masks for every occasion. She is passionate about being a voice for the 1 in 4 pregnancies that result in miscarriage and for the 1 in 8 women who struggle with infertility. Both of these statistics should be talked about more. Pregnancy loss and infertility should not feel so isolating. Thank you for joining us, Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today for more than one reason, but obviously, firstly, to share your story because you have experienced different layers of loss and challenges in your journey. So, did you want to share a little bit about what that was like for you?
Sure. So our journey started back in 2011. So it was quite a while ago. I am not a new loss mom or anything like that, but I did, like you mentioned earlier, have that multifaceted amount of different kinds of losses. So we started our journey and started out with just some miscarriages. I knew I was a little bit older than your average person trying to get pregnant. So immediately I was characterized as a geriatric pregnancy, and they wanted me to go to the special clinic and get some more information if I were to continue miscarrying. So we did some testing. I had 2 more miscarriages after that, and then we started IVF process. So there was multiple fertility treatments that were unsuccessful. And then you mentioned the termination for medical reasons. That was, I think, the last, for me, the last straw. So going through all of the miscarriages and the unsuccessful infertility was just really weighing on my heart heavily. It was all of the different, I think, things that we talk about and that we see on social media frequently right now, at least, where you're feeling alone, you're feeling secluded. Am I failing myself? Am I failing my spouse? Am I failing my parents? Am I disappointing them all? Like just the guilt that kind of, when we're growing up, it's always talked about, you're going to be such a great mom. Oh, that's like everybody wants to be a mom. And then when you can't, it was just something that I was really struggling with. So when that termination for medical reasons occurred, that TFMR, we had some additional embryos left. And I was at a point where I was really discouraged with my body, that it was failing me, that I was having all of these different things coming up, and there was nothing that I could do. We had seen doctors, we had tried multiple different things, and the result from the doctors that I was getting was, your body's attacking the pregnancies, your body's attacking the pregnancies. So just feeling, if we tried one more time, I don't know where I would have been. I just don't know that would have been something I could have handled. And we sat on those embryos, those frozen embryos, for about 10 years with this kind of decision that weighed heavily on our hearts. And it was where do we go from here? What can we do? Every time I got that bill in the mail for the storage fee, it was like just another reminder that your embryos are here, and if you try to use them, you're not going to be successful. So this was what, like, internally, every time I got that bill every month. And there came a point where, what are we doing and how long are we going to keep these frozen? What can we do next? So then it was talking to the doctors, talking to the social worker at the fertility clinic, and the options that we had were, you can donate them to like an adoption donation. We could donate them to science. We could bring them home and discard them. And so these, and then there was like, try again, use a surrogate, all of these things in addition. And I think I called multiple different embryo donation places, and in the conversations with them, it was, nope, this person just is more interested in how we're going to fund this person is interested in too much. They were just not, I wasn't feeling right. It was the questions they were asking just weren't settling with me. And so it was like, nope, we're just going to storm for a little bit longer. We're just going to do this for a little bit longer. And when the words, you can bring them home and discard them, it was just so hard. I think that it wasn't a, you could bring them home and have a ceremony and bury them. It was just that word discard was just like, these were embryos that we created with a future in mind. And then to hear discard was like, we're just going to throw them away. And that wasn't settling with me either. And so we ended up going the embryo donation route and donated them to, we found the perfect family. They were gonna, it was gonna be an open adoption. It was gonna be amazing. And then for reasons that were, I think that no fault of anyone's, that pregnancy did not come to fruition either. So then there was that, again, another loss that we were so excited that our embryos were going to be donated. They were going to be someone else's children, but we were still going to see them. It was an open adoption. We were going to be able to watch them grow. And then to have that fall apart as well, it was just one more loss added. We tried foster care. We tried, there were multiple different routes. The adoption route we looked at, and it ended up that at the end of the day, those avenues weren't working for us. And I think that is where, just surfing through the internet, trying to find out, as a lost mom, it's been this many years. I have a story to tell and I want to be able to help other people, but I have no idea what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know how to get this started. And I came across your website, and I think we've talked about this a few times. I came across your website and I read it a few times. I joined the journal group. I read it back again a few times, and it was just, timing wasn't right for me in those moments until all of a sudden I saw you had a free masterclass, and I'm like, I'm going to jump in on this and see what this is all about, and I'm going to see where I go from here and what this brings up. And from there, joined the certification program to be a pregnancy loss practitioner, and the mentorship program and the ambassador program. I just keep, everything that you're putting out is just amazing and fantastic. And I just keep hopping along on for your ride.
Keep coming along for the ride.
Yeah. Yes, very much.
No, I really do want to, like I said at the beginning, there was a few reasons why I was excited to have you here today. And obviously that is one of them too, because you are a part of what I have been able to create since going through my experience, my loss, and the same as you, being on the other end of it, going, I know I have something to share, but how do I do it? How do I get that message out? Where do I start? And when you start stepping into the roles of support, how do I support someone? I know what I did for myself, but then how do I be that for someone else? Like I said, I was excited to have you here and to talk to you about all of these different things. I want to thank you for sharing your story. And like I said, we said at the start too, it's so multifaceted. You had a few different challenges that you don't necessarily hear about. People talk a lot and still not enough about pregnancy loss and infertility, but not so much about the embryo side of things, of the IVF and what to do with those difficult challenges that you have on the other side of you've collected them, they've been frozen, but you haven't been able to use them. And you said there came a time, it was almost like a line in the sand, and you were like, I can't do this again. It was just that continual, you couldn't go down the path of using the embryos, but it was this constant sort of almost like slap in the face every time you were getting that bill in the mail to say, hey, it's still here. Are you
Right.
going to, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and we went through two different two different rounds of IVF after our the eggs were, or I'm sorry, after the embryos were frozen. We did the IVF twice. So it was the first time unsuccessful. We did injections unsuccessful. So there was a lot of leading up to IVF. It wasn't just jumping from miscarriage to IVF. But in the process, we finally, when that TFMR happened, we had finally, okay, I'm pregnant, this is going to work. And then all of a sudden, this happens and we have no choice. I ended up with some pretty significant migraines that were happening. My blood pressure was spiking super high, and they thought I was having a stroke. So, in order to put me in, the machine is going to terminate the pregnancy. And I wasn't far enough along where they could have, if anything happened to me, where the babies would have survived. So it was that choice of, do we risk not doing anything and see if I survive, and then we'll be able to carry the embryos and carry the babies, and everything will all come out with a positive, happy ending? Or do I end up having the scan of my brain to see if it is a stroke, and risk doing that, but knowing at the same time that is going to terminate the pregnancy? And so it was, I think for me, it was like, this is the universe telling me, you are not, this is not supposed to happen. Like, you are just not supposed to have kids this way. It's just, I have a bigger plan for you, and your plan wasn't my plan. So I think it's been definitely been a journey. And it was, yeah, that, and then having those extra embryos left over, where, what do we do with them now that I know I had come to the conclusion that I can't do this anymore?
And it's a really difficult place to be in. And I know that you've said it before to me as well. There's that, do we, should we keep trying? Do we keep going? Have we done enough? They're
Yeah,
there, they're there. So maybe we should do it. And then on the other side, you've got your mental health declining, you're grieving, there's trauma. How are you actually physically, emotionally going to be able to handle going through the process again, whether it is a healthy pregnancy or whether it's not? And that's the thing, you can't predict that. So then you've got like these two really heavy decisions on either side, heavy weights on either side.
yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't a process, like I said, it wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a very lengthy, we're just going to leave them, we're going to leave them there because right now that's where they're safe. And that was like, my brain is like, they're safe there, I'm going to leave them there. But then after so many years, we can't just leave them there forever. So what do we do to try to eliminate this bill coming in the mail reminding me that, hey, just letting you know you can't have babies? Or just, we just had to do something for, like you said, for the grief process, to get that closure for it. And that's what it was. Basically every month it was just like, that grief was lingering out there, and there we weren't able to have any closure knowing those bills were coming.
Yeah, like I said, it's like a wound that kept getting opened. There was no chance for you to, even though you sit, and I totally get it. Like I totally can see where your mindset would have been because you don't want to discount the fact that when, like you said, it's that closure, it's that finality. Like if you choose to do something with them, it's done and it's gone. That option for you is gone, even though you're hurting, even though you have this open wound, and you may not go down that path again, but at least that option was always there. And I totally get where your mindset would have been in that moment, just knowing that they're there, they're safe, but also it didn't give you the opportunity to fully be able to process what was happening inside of you, to fully be able to move forward with your journey to be able. And I think it's a really, the whole journey in itself is a real big test in surrender, isn't it? Because you don't know
Absolutely.
what's you can't control the future as much as you want
Right.
to. With that, with your experience, with everything that you went through, was it how were you able to cope? I know with those constant like monthly bills coming in, it was that reopening of the wounds, the grief every time was, and we're not taught how to navigate that. We're not taught how to process emotions and or talk about them. So a lot of the time
Or
we
talk
tend
about, right?
to exactly. So a lot of the time we just push that aside and go, you know what, I can't deal with that. I can't, that's too painful. No one wants to hear about it or no one understands it. So how can I even start processing? Was there anything that you were able to do for yourself in those times?
I think you hit a couple of them right on the head. It was painting on those happy faces and knowing which mask I needed to pull out of the closet depending on where we were going. And it's okay, we're going to be with friends who have kids. This mask is going on. I'm going to work. This mask is going on. And so it was just trying to juggle all of these different, I have to be this person here. I have to be this person here. And it was absolutely like pushing all of that down. And you come home and okay, I just need to get in the shower, and it's crying in the shower so nobody can hear you because you don't want to talk about it. You don't it, and I think a big part of that was too, nobody's going to understand what I'm going through. And I had support. I had fantastic support, but at the same time, it wasn't the type of support that I needed to be able to process the grief. I had family and friends who were checking in on me, who were doing everything I think that they felt they were supposed to do. And sometimes it was just getting a casserole dropped off on the front step and a text, hey, you've got dinner. And when all I wanted was like, I just want somebody to come in and talk to me. And I don't think it's, people just don't know when somebody has a miscarriage, what do we do? How do we handle this? And it wasn't, again, like I said, no malicious intent. They were doing fantastic jobs supporting me with what they knew how to do and with the best that they had. And I think that was one of, that is not was, but that is one of my big, I think one of my big goals in all of this, and one of the I don't even, what I see moving forward is just the getting it out there and the talking about it and making sure that other folks know this is what you're supposed to do, or this is what you can do, or this is what you shouldn't do, but just making it more normalized, because I know that I'm not the same person I was before this journey. I'm a different person. I am a shell of that person, but I've also had to take those pieces of my heart and tape them back together the best I knew how. Because even going through, I tried the therapist route. So when you're asking what I did, I tried the therapist route, but it was talking to a therapist who had no idea what pregnancy loss or infertility was. They may have been a grief counselor, but they didn't know anything about this specific type of just the feeling alone, the feeling unworthy, or not unworthy, yeah, unworthy, just like feeling empty, feeling, and it's, I'm sure very similar to other losses, but I think like the miscarriage and pregnancy loss, it wasn't just like miscarrying children, but it's the loss of also the loss of a future. this is what I had planned in my future, and losing those hopes and those dreams. I was grieving that too. So there was just all of these different things and trying to figure out where I went from here. And it was just like this storm that was building inside of me that was like the size of a category 5 hurricane. And it was just overwhelming emotions when I tried to sit with myself and do anything. It was just like tears. And I can't journal about this. So I'm going to sit and scribble on the page, or I'm going to journal about something completely different. But there was no, I don't think I found anything that was really helpful or a space that I felt seen and heard. And I think that was one of the biggest things. I could go somewhere and I could talk, but what I was saying, I don't feel was being heard in the way that I was trying to get it across.
I think that's a very common thread that I've experienced in talking with other women as well, and even myself. That it's grief, but it's different. Like, it's not the same as losing an adult or someone close to you. Like, it's very personal because a lot of the time it happens in you, to you. So there's so much internalized guilt, shame, blame and unworthiness, like you said. Like, it really attacks your self-worth and the concept of who you are as a woman. You're like, this is what I was designed for, and it can't do that. So and again, therapy is great, but it doesn't seem to just get to the crux of what it really is, the type of support that we truly need in that moment. And like you said, you didn't feel seen in the way that you needed to. And that is something that I hear a lot of when I speak to other lost mums, and when I speak, and even like I said, for myself, you need someone on the other side of you that can really be that support, help you navigate through it, but also
Mhm.
say, I get it. I see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I just wanted someone to tell me, like, this is okay. These feelings are normal. This is how I felt. And again, everybody's journey is uniquely their own, but I think we can all relate to each other. Like, it might not be, I had those exact same circumstances, but I can relate to what you're going through and I understand. And I think that's what I needed to hear. And I couldn't find that. I just wasn't finding that connection.
1 in 4 pregnancies will result in miscarriage. 1 in 8 women will experience infertility. 1 in 100 women will experience recurrent miscarriage. And 1 in 160 births end in stillbirth. Have you been wanting to make a difference in the lives of women or men who have experienced pregnancy loss because you can see so many suffering in silence, but you just don't know how? Collectively, we can change how bereaved parents can access mental, physical, and emotional support after their experience. There is a lot of women with unhealed trauma, and there is a huge gap in the current support system when it comes to bereaved parents' recovery after loss. There are too many women and men suffering in silence. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner Certification is a worldwide, one-of-a-kind program that gives you proven methods designed for healthcare professionals, medical staff, midwives, nurses, doulas, birth workers, coaches, and angel parents alike. The Pregnancy Loss Practitioner Certification is bridging that gap. It will give you a proven support structure to follow and education specific to pregnancy loss, created by a lost mum. It is creating more education specifically for loss so that you can enhance your service and become the point of difference. Or you can create the support that you so desperately needed in your healing after loss. This is the next level of growth and expansion you have been searching for. So does this sound like something that you have been searching for? Let's explore this more together. You can head to the episode show notes where you'll find the program application, or direct message me on Instagram and let's open up the conversation in how you can use this education. You have a gift, and I look forward to supporting you and witnessing you bring your gift to the world, healing and transforming women's lives. Yeah, and it's very validating when you can find someone to say, I've been there, I've done it. But then there's also that next step too that say that can be like, I've been there, I've been in your shoes, I see what you're going through, but then these are now ways that you can move forward. So it's
Yeah.
not, you don't just get the validation, you get that guidance as well.
Yeah.
So you'll get, like I said, it's amazing to get the reassurance and the validation that you're not making it up. But then a lot of the time, if it's just that, then you're like, now what? Now what do I do? Now
Yeah.
how do I still don't have the tools for myself to help me heal? I need someone to see me and meet me in that moment and then allow me to navigate that time, which,
Yeah. And it's that what next? Like now where? Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And because it does, it shatters your identity as well after loss. So you're then also, not only do you have all of these emotions, you're like, but who am I now? You don't know, you can't go back to the woman that you were. And I know that's a lot of, that's probably one of the hardest things that I see with women is that they want to go back to the woman that they were. And I'm like, you never will be able to. So, how do you reconnect to the one that is in front of you now? How do you reconnect to the one that has gone through all of what you have and love on her and be able to move forward with that new sense of, okay, I've been through hell and back and redesign a sense of self
Yeah.
with elements of the who you were at the part in the past, but with also all of the growth and the healing and the experiences that you've been through.
Yeah. And I feel like for myself at least, it was like my heart just fell and it was just shattered. And it was like this mosaic now, like putting it back together. And it's not just one solid piece anymore, but it's all these different pieces that are either glued back, sewn back, taped back, and then to fall off again because, that grief just isn't the same. You can be triggered by anything, and all of a sudden, oh, that little piece fell off. Now I've got to stick it back up and tape it back in or glue it back in. But just looking at all of the different ways that there was just so much heartbreak and just trying to figure out putting it back together and looking at it and now being like, okay, where do I go from here? And now what? And how can I connect with this heart and not keep trying to go back to something that it can never be that because it was shattered and destroyed and I put it back together and this is what we're working with now and finding the beauty in those pieces because it was looking at everything. And I think I was just in that dark place where I couldn't even pick my heart up and put it back together. It was just like, nope, it's on the floor and I'm going to leave it down there because one more thing and it's just going to fall apart again. So, learning how to look through that different lens on, okay, this is where I'm at. And how do I figure out who I am now without those societal labels of every woman needs to be a mom or this is what you were made for. And not all of us.
Yeah, and that's it. Sometimes you do get the happy ending, the one that you wanted on the other side of those challenges, and sometimes you don't get what you have longed for. And like you said, the somewhere towards the start, it was like you had this vision for yourself. You wanted to be a mom, and that's the thing that gets ingrained in you. Like for most women, not all women, but most women, when you're a young girl, you're like, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have kids, and that just is the thing. And you're not told anything to change that vision. That's just going to
Yeah,
be how that's just
just
my
the way it
future.
works.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you get to that point and you're like, it's not, that was my plan, but it's obviously not God's plan, the bigger like universe, spirit's plan. But then it's such a hard thing then to wrap your head around and go, I didn't get the pregnancy, the healthy pregnancy, the baby on the other side of this heartache. And you just think also it's conditioned in you to believe that there is always something good on the other side. I've got to go
Yeah.
through this pain. There's a reason for something. And you just assume that it's going to be that you will get the baby and you will get that result. And then when you don't, coming to terms then with, okay, with also then you like it that kind of plays into it too with having to say no to the frozen embryos. That was the final chapter of being able to fall pregnant for yourself.
Yeah, it was. And like I said, it was such a lengthy process before I decided this is what we're going to do. And this is when I'm going to start to grieve. And you figure that it was probably 2014, 2013, where they went into storage. And 2000, what is it, 2005, 2004, when I found you. So, like, we're looking at, or 2024, not 2004. We're going back in time now.
We're just rewinding it before you even went through all of the challenges.
Yes. Then I found you and knew all about this. But in 24, so 10 years later, when I decided, okay, how do I finally look for that what's next and how to heal and how to move on and how to do all of these things? It was a good 10 years before I started to have that closure to decide this is where my next is.
And that's the thing too. It's really important to take that away as well, is that timeline. Just because someone else might be able to say and move through that timeline a lot quicker, but for you it took such an extended period of time because you're like, you weren't ready. And I think that's where
Mhm.
we also have to honor our own story and our own timeline and say, okay, this is my journey. This is how long it's taking for me to go through that, and give yourself permission to be okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's timeline is different. I don't think there's any right answer to any of it. It's just your answer or your choice. No right choice, but your choice.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of what I tell women as well is silence all of those external voices and really make yours loud, because you don't ever want to look back on your journey and say, I wish I had have done that differently, but you felt rushed into a decision or you felt rushed into something sooner than what you felt was right for you. So we do have to really start and be okay with listening to ourselves and going, okay, this is the journey that feels right for me. This is the path that feels right, and honor that and be okay with that.
For sure.
So I just want to ask probably a couple more questions and then we'll dive into the ambassador questions. What is maybe one piece of advice that you could leave women with that are navigating probably the depth of grief and or maybe a difficult decision? Maybe they're facing something where they have to decide. What is one piece of advice that you could give them in this moment?
And I think I would even throw in that into the mix, like the trying to conceive again. So going through, and this was something that I was just in awe over, that I learned during like your programming, was just the power of the pause, right? So I think for me, it was so fast where we had our first miscarriage. And oh, you can try again as soon as your body is ready. It's different in looking at as soon as your body is ready or as soon as you have the cycles available to try again. So it was so quick. It was just like, okay, miscarriage. Okay, no, let's see when you can try again. You can start trying again here. Great. Okay, miscarriage again. Okay, when. And so it was just like one right after the other. And it seemed like the same thing with our infertility journey through the injection. Okay, the injections aren't working, now let's try, we're going to go the IVF route. Oh, that, let's see how we can incorporate that and make the second time a little bit better. And but it wasn't, looking back on all of this, when I remember like vaguely sitting in, or not vaguely, clearly sitting in one of your classes, and all of a sudden you're talking about the pause and making sure you're giving your body that time to grieve and your body remembers. And so looking at that fight, flight, or freeze and our what organs are vital and what organs are going to stay on or systems in our body are going to stay on. I don't think any of our organs ever shut off, but what systems in our body stay on. And your reproductive system isn't one that is vital for survival. So as soon as that flight or freeze kicks in, all of a sudden our reproductive system goes down. And it just clicked when you said that. And I was like, oh, so could things have been different for me? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe who knows? But there wasn't ever that pause until we got to what to do with the embryos. And then it was like a 10-year pause. But I think, whether it's trying to conceive or whether there someone is stuck in the same circumstances with trying to figure out what to do next, where do we go? Just take that time, pause, and take that time for yourself to make sure that your story is yours. We talk a lot about having a full cup and always walking around with your full cup and staying positive. But I think it's equally as important to make sure you're not drinking what everybody else is drinking so that you're not hearing all of those external messages and this is what you should do and this is what you should do. And you're not listening to yourself. So it might be best to just put that cup down and let it get empty and let your body just, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I need to do. This is how I need to grieve. This is how I need to process this, and take it at your own time. It doesn't have to be on anyone else's timeline but yours. And then when you're ready, you can fill up your cup with your next plan and make sure that, your cup is full of something that you want and not something that everyone else has.
I think that is such a powerful thing to take away. The pause has been and it is such a powerful choice to make for yourself, especially when you're navigating grief, especially when you're navigating potential trauma to your body, to your womb. There is a lot of, like you said, a lot of what happens when you're going into those states. Your body takes a lot of that offline because I don't need that now. And when you're continually pushing into that next cycle because the doctor told you to, the doctor said, that's okay, you can try again. Or in the next IVF cycle, that's okay. This one didn't work, let's go again. And the amount of women that I've actually had say to me, I wish I had permission to stop. And I think that's where we feel like we get caught up in this vicious cycle of just doing and not actually giving your body a chance to breathe and not
Yeah.
giving your body a chance to go, okay, I can process this, I can feel this, I need to complete this before we go again.
Yeah. Even just walking into like to get blood draws or to go into the OBGYN. And that was where the very, very first time all of a sudden everything was going great and now we can't hear a heartbeat. So just walking into that office to have any kind of visit or it was my body was immediately like just tense everywhere. And this was happening like on a regular basis. It wasn't like a year later. This was on a regular basis that I could feel like my heart beating faster. I could feel all of these symptoms that I was triggered by all of those places. And so when I'm triggered that bad, but not giving myself permission or time to sit with those feelings and process them and process this grief and process all of whirlwind inside of me, it just, like I said, it was just like this category 5 that just kept growing and growing and growing, but there was no outlet for it.
It was just a massive cyclone that kept getting speed and not getting a chance to like diffuse itself, not getting a chance to have, like you said, to have that outlet where it could calm down and become just this peaceful environment inside of you.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you sharing that because it is something that is super important and valuable. If anyone is listening in, they can take away and start introducing some pauses in your day and in between the decisions or in between the cycles or in between the losses. Take time for you. And like you said,
Absolutely.
I even like the analogy of watching what everyone else is drinking as well. Like we are so conditioned by our external environment, by what other people say, by what other people are doing, that we do forget. We're like, we
Mhm.
are absorbing all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you.
My little analogies.
Yeah. So in this next part, oh, actually, yeah, no, we'll go into this next part. And then at the end of this, I do want people to hear about what you have on offer for them in terms of support. You do have a couple, you've facilitated one masterclass already, and you do have another one coming up. So I will allow some space to
That's
talk about that. Actually, no, I'll get you. You can talk about it now. Just
good.
changing it up. So you have, like I said, you have facilitated one masterclass and you do have another one coming up. But by the time this episode airs, it would have already been done. Do you want to talk about what you have created, how people can come into the support that you see is so needed in this space, and for them to really start taking or start being able to go on their healing journey?
Sure. So I have a signature series and it is called Rediscovering Your Radiant Essence. And for me, my signature series is based along what we have talked about previously, just that rediscovering yourself. So that is okay to move forward and not forget what happened to us, but moving forward through honoring all of our losses, through honoring your body, honoring everything that happened to you, but that just moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. That we're not saying forget about what happened, you've got to move forward and you've got to get through this, because that's not at all what my message is. I want to make sure that I'm providing a safe space for any lost mom, no matter what their loss is, because I think we said everybody's loss is uniquely their own. And I don't want to pinpoint that down and only work with one piece of that loss, but just have that space open for anybody who's grieving their future, grieving the miscarriages, the infertility process, just whatever is coming up, that it's a safe space. And trying then to move forward to find out that what's next. Like, where do I go from here? Who am I and who can I become without all of those previous titles that I wanted for myself? Like, I wanted to be a mom, I wanted to be a grandma, I wanted all of these different things that are now not going to happen. So, where does this take me and where does this leave me? The previous masterclass that I did was the first part of that. And I do have that recorded. It's available for anybody who would like to watch that. And the masterclass that I have coming up is completely, it's not tied into my signature series. It's just a little piece that can be connected. But it is all on the, when you have those embryos that are unused, what do you do with them and how do we process this? These are looking at options. These are some of the options you have. This is the grief that is surrounding it. This is the emotions. Like, how do we go through all of these different steps when we're looking at something like this? And it's not at all anything that is going to be telling anybody what they should do or shouldn't do. That is a personal choice that everyone has to make for themselves, but guiding them along and answering any questions, putting in some somatic healing, and trying to at least make that portion of the journey a little easier. I think it's one of my biggest things was I'm really wanting to put those supports out that I couldn't find when I was going through my journey. So to be that person for somebody else is really important to me. And I think that's really where my heart is at. Yeah, I hope I answered that question.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I'll link in the show notes access to these masterclasses, but essentially everything that you're offering is what is missing because
Yeah.
it's what you didn't get. It's the validation. You didn't get the safe space to be seen and heard. And also having the question always lingering inside of you, who am I now? What does my life mean for me now? And
Hmm.
that question of, okay, is this it? Like, how do I
Yeah.
move forward from here? And obviously, the unused embryo masterclass is a very huge part of your story. And there are other women that will be navigating what you did. So I really
Yeah. So
do.
just being a companion piece
Mm.
to my signature series.
Yeah, yeah. And it's all important. It's all essentially providing the space to say, I get you, I see you, and this is how you can move forward in all
Hmm.
of or in all of what you're creating and in all of the different ways that those experiences come forward.
For sure. Yeah.
So I will put in details about those two masterclasses in the show notes. So obviously, if there's anyone listening in that is navigating either grief, loss, infertility, they can access your masterclass. But then there's also, if anyone is navigating the specifics of unused embryos and providing yourself the pathway of helping you navigate decisions, where do you go from there? The emotions, like you said, the emotions, the grief, the heartache that is still, and the future that is still attached to those embryos as well, because it has been a huge part of your journey. So, two
Hmm.
really powerful yet different support resources for women who are navigating the
Yes. Yeah. And I will be having a 30 day opening up. So that will be in there as well. So I'm excited about that.
yeah, yeah. So the 30-day is the opportunity for women to come into your space and to really start to deep dive into their healing
Yes.
and start to really accelerate that and move into that if that is what they feel like they need right now is that safe space, but also the steps they can take.
Yeah. And if anybody just has questions or wants to know more about what those look big picture, I am happy to hop on and respond to any emails, DMs, messages, Instagram chats, wherever anybody wants to find me.
All of the above.
All
So
of the above.
I will link in all of your details as well, but did you want to share where people can find you and
Sure.
open up the conversation?
Yeah, sure. So I'm very new to Facebook, so I am starting off slow, but most of my stuff is posted on at I underscore am underscore unbroken 13. That is my Instagram page. And that's where I have a lot of my posts, a lot of my story, my journey is up on the Instagram page. Slowly figuring out how to put it on Facebook. That will be soon, just as hopefully just as exciting as the Instagram page. And then I do have a website too, which is I am unbroken 13. And that kind of goes a little bit deeper into my story.
Yeah, perfect. So I'll post all of those details as well as Kelly's masterclasses so that you can either jump into her masterclasses or you can reach out to her with any questions that you might have or anything you want to talk to her about.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you to all that have listened in. If this episode was valuable to you, I invite you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode. Thank you for listening in with me today. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you did, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Take a screenshot of this episode, share it to social media, and tag me at Institute of Healing_PL. I love seeing what is resonating with you right now. If you want to chat further, I invite you to connect with me through Instagram. Head over and follow my Instagram account, send me a DM, and let's open the communication. If you want to know more about how you can be the support for others, head to the show notes and fill out the application form for the Pregnancy Loss Practitioner certification. I want to also note here that what I share within the episodes is not medical advice. If you need further support, please consult your doctor. Thank you again. Much love to you. Be gentle with yourself, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode.